Well, thanks for joining us, everyone. My name is Steve Lynn, and I'm the Director of Marketing here at Blaze, and welcome to our webinar on how to improve dispensary e-commerce menus for SEO. We're excited to partner with Range Marketing on this webinar to bring in their expertise on SEO optimization and share some tips on how you can improve your rankings, drive more traffic to your website. And we're also happy to have Tropicanna join us to speak on some of the results that they've seen since launching their updated website. But without further ado, let's introduce our panelists. Today, I'm joined by none other than Blaze VP of E-commerce, Scott Rorick, Range Marketing and Business Development Manager and host of Buffalo Bills Radio, Nate Geary, and Tropicanna General Manager, Joanna Sanchez. Thank you guys for being here today.
Excited to do it.
Yeah, I think between Scott's knowledge of cannabis e-commerce, Nate's SEO experience, and Joanna's extensive experience in retail operations, we really have all of our bases covered. But first, I just want to hear from Scott on sort of how this relationship with Range Marketing started and how it's sort of elevated our e-commerce offering.
Yeah, thanks, Steve. Happy to be here, guys. I appreciate everyone showing up today. We got a really cool webinar planned for you and excited to dig in. Nate and I go way back. Range and Timber go way back. I was, of course, the former co-founder and CEO of Timber. So Nate and I have been working together for a long time. We've had some really great results with various mutual customers, and we've only recently started to kind of package that together and really work closer together. And it's bearing a lot of fruit already. So I'm really excited to be here today and bring my guy Nate on. Got my Tropicanna gear on, so we're ready to go.
Awesome. And Nate, thanks again for being with us. Just tell us a little bit about how you started working in the cannabis industry and give us a little cues on this Buffalo Bills Radio.
Yeah, so I started with Range. This will be my fifth year with Range, which is kind of crazy how quickly time flies. We've actually been in the cannabis space for 8 years. It's funny, when we started, we used to get paid with cash envelopes, and now here we are. It's a real industry. It's an evolving industry. It's sort of a progressively business savvy industry. So getting an opportunity to kind of pair up with a company like Blaze, who I think is doing all of the right things the right way, and pairing with them to provide more offerings to retailers across the country, not just in the California market, but everywhere. I'm really excited kind of to see this relationship blossom and flourish over the next couple of months and years to be. And then Bill's side, I just have, professional talker over here. So it's one of those things where you start in school, you get your internship, you work your way up. And I grew up actually right down the road from the Bill Stadium. So it's kind of a childhood dream come true to get to talk about them. It hadn't been up until the last couple of years because they've been pretty miserable, but it's more exciting now that they're a relevant and hopefully Super Bowl caliber team.
There you go. Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed.
Well, welcome also, Joanna. We'd love to hear a little bit more about your experience in managing Tropicanna and sort of the importance you've seen from your website and sort of how that's helped facilitate online sales.
Yeah, so thanks for having me here. It's been a journey, to say the least, with this ever-changing cannabis market and cannabis industry. You have to be willing to pivot, at any point, and be comfortable with that. And so in trying to create the overall user experience for our e-commerce and our content site, having partners like Blaze Ecom and Range who really understand what we need, what our goals are and how to meet them is huge. So I appreciate the opportunity to not only let everyone else know that this is something that they should really be focused on, instead of trying to discount items, come up with these crazy sales, decrease product pricing and whatnot. Focus on the SEO, because that's where you're going to see the money come in, and we can definitely see that a little bit later.
Awesome. Well, let's move on. For those of you who may be joining us for the first time, I want to quickly cover a little bit about what Blaze offers. These are sort of our product software suite right now. This is expanding, so stay tuned because we have more in the weeks to come. But yeah, Blaze Retail, sort of our core offering, our POS, Blaze Payments, integrated payments. We offer PIN debit and ACH. Blaze Ecom, which we're here to talk about today. Blaze Insights, obviously your business intelligence and analytics reporting. Blaze Delivery, that's the mobile app for all your delivery drivers, and Blaze Dispatch for sort of a centralized dispatching location. If you want to know more about those, feel free to reach out to us. But let's learn a little bit more about Range. Nate, you want to take us through?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Stephen. Appreciate it. Yeah. For Range, our goal is to create long-term partnerships with our clients rooted in month-over-month revenue growth as a result of our SEO services. So, as I mentioned a little while ago, we've been a company that has been around for over 10 years now. We celebrated our 10-year anniversary a few months ago, and 8 of those years have been spent in the California market, is where we started in San Francisco, working with some long-term clients, some sort of cornerstone clients in the San Francisco market, like Barbary Coast, who has been around for a very long time. And we do view ourselves as a web design and a marketing company, but we've really, I think, maybe separated ourselves in the software development space, building proprietary software that lives and breathes on the websites and the content sites that we build. What it does is it allows us to scale, especially when you're talking about, websites and menus that have thousands and thousands and thousands of websites. Optimizing those pages, those products have become a sort of increasingly difficult task, especially for companies that do what we do, but also for those folks that try to do this stuff in-house. So our tech-driven approach really allows us to become efficient and scalable for those large operators, the MSOs, and also for the single mom and pop shops as well. So we do not discriminate. We work with everyone, but the scalability, the tech-driven background kind of really, I think for us, really puts us in a really good position across the industry to help as many clients as we possibly can. But we really, really focus on web design and SEO strategies. That includes on-site SEO, which we can get into in a little while, and also Google Maps, which has become an ever increasing sort of value driver for dispensaries, and how they're A, generating traffic, but B, conversions, and then trickling down to revenue. So those things feed each other, on-site SEO and map SEO. So we'll we can kind of get into the weeds and answer some questions later, because I'm sure a lot of people have some questions about how those two things interact, and how you can leverage your website to maximize your visibility on the internet.
Absolutely. I think that's one of the reasons we decided to partner with you guys. Well, let's go through our run of show today. Today we'll be covering sort of the challenges of menu SEO, the benefits of native e-commerce, sort of how to identify these search trends that are very popular, those keywords, tips on creating your content site, and really some of the impressive results that we've seen Tropicanna have with their updated website. We will have a brief Q&A at the end, but if you have questions during the webinar, feel free to drop them in the Zoom Q&A there. We'll circle back at the end, and we'll cover those. But Scott, I'm going to pass it over to you. Let's cover some of these terms that we always hear about, but you may not know exactly what they mean.
Thanks, Steve. Yeah, let's jump right in. So SEO, right? That's the elephant in the room. That's what we're here to talk about. It's a very, complex and overarching term, but like, just to simplify it, it's how you do in the search results, in the organic search results, right? Consumers take questions to search engines, mostly Google, right? When they do that, the results that come up, the organic ones, not the ones that are served by paid ads, the better you do in that ranking, the better you're doing with your SEO. That's the simplest way to describe this kind of bigger theme, and we'll dig into the nuances of that here shortly. Indexability. So the way that you get on that list is Google needs to know about your content or your pages on your website. And so we'll get into this later as well. This comes into play when we talk about the iframe or embedded menus. I'll actually just add that to the glossary. So if you're using an iframe menu, also referred to as an embedded menu, the way that I like to think about that is it's really a window into somebody else's website, right? You're putting your corner of a marketplace in our industry, whether that's, Weed Maps, Leafly, Jane, Dutchie, you name it, you're putting your corner of that marketplace on your website. The content within that does not belong to your domain, and therefore is not being indexed and does not show up in the search results. And so that's, kind of foreshadowing. That's what we're going to talk a lot about today. Schema markup is, so the opposite of an iframe, I would say, is a native site, right? When we say native, we mean your menu and all the pages within your menu. So that's, categories, brands, products, that belongs to and is attributed to your website. And so on a native menu, we can go even one step further with schema markup, which is basically behind the scenes, kind of technical SEO. We're marking things up so that Google knows what they're looking at. So this is not just a word or text, it's a brand name specifically, right? It's in stock, it has a price, there's recommendations, metadata. It's the stuff behind the scenes that tells Google everything about the product page. So being able to see it and index it is part of the battle. And then marking that up so that Google knows what they're looking at is the second part. And so this will all come into play here shortly in this webinar. Okay, I got some bullet points up here. I'm going to go off script a little bit and really kind of take a walk down memory lane. So I mentioned before I was the co-founder and CEO of Timber. Before that, I was running an agency, and I've been working selling weed online for a little over 10 years now. So it's been a really interesting journey, I guess, of what I've seen. So, in the beginning in 2012, 13, 15, before recreational cannabis in California, especially, weed maps, right? There was one place you could sell weed online, and quite frankly, it was a pretty cool value prop in those days, right? The ability to sell weed online. But any marketplace is going to use the retailers to reach consumers, right? That's just how all marketplaces work, whether it's Amazon or weed maps. And there's nothing necessarily wrong with that. So I want to be clear on that as well. I actually think you should use marketplaces, weed maps, Leafly, Yelp, whatever you want, but make sure you're using the marketplace and not the other way around, right? You need to build an asset that you own, not a profile that you rent. Okay, yep. So that's the first concept. From the marketplace, circa 2017, 2018, we had iframes, which again was the ability to embed your corner of that marketplace on your own website. Slightly better, right? Now you have an asset, at least you have a website. The problem with that is, again, SEO and indexability. So it becomes really difficult to drive traffic to your website. It also becomes equally difficult to stand out because the marketplaces all look the same, so you can't get your branding across. It also becomes difficult to do revenue tracking, right? So the attribution for traffic that comes from away from your website, eventually to your homepage, to your product page, to checkout, you need to be able to track the revenue so that you can say, what's my ROI across my marketing channels? With that information, you can create all kinds of marketing channels and you can compare them apples to apples. That attribution tends to get lost, and therefore the revenue tracking is difficult, impossible, inaccurate. Depends, right? Not great. Okay, so the next thing that happened was that they came out with subdomain menus. Now they're native, okay, we're getting better, but now we're on a subdomain. Now, SEO is a bit of a art, a little less than a science, I would say, in some cases, because of the algorithm and they don't know exactly how it works. I will tell you that subdomains don't work very well. And one reason I've read is possibly that it's a defense mechanism from Google, because if you have subdomains are technically different websites, okay? As far as your DNS is concerned, a subdomain is a different website than your homepage. If you had hundreds of subdomains, you could, in theory, take up the whole first page of Google with different websites that were all effectively the same. And so to combat that, Google dilutes your domain authority by the number of subdomains you have. And so what I can tell you for sure, in all my travels on the internet, you don't see the subdomains ranking in Google very often, right? And so you can test that for yourself. There's other issues with that as well. It's a choppy user experience. Obviously, you're jumping back and forth. The branding's still off. So all that stuff. Again, we're getting better, right? So a couple of years ago, people start to wake up, right? Eventually. Took a long time. They start to wake up and they say, you know what? I want to have a native SEO optimized website and I want my brand, right? There we go. Aha, we're there. Okay, so now we have what we call the headless option, which is nothing more than access to the API. Mm-hmm. In the beginning, that meant that you needed to build a full custom website, which is extremely cost prohibitive for almost all cannabis dispensaries. If you're not an MSO, you don't need a CTO. Okay, so if you have to do that, it doesn't work. Okay, so then now we're getting closer. We have agencies building on top of these headless platforms, on top of these APIs. Now you have an entire website, which is built on an API, an e-commerce API, which is then connected to a point of sale. So a couple things these sites look good and they do perform well, right? So we're actually, we're doing pretty good at this point. They are still cost prohibitive, in my opinion, thousands of dollars a month typically. Your entire website is now sort of lumped together and you have less options, right? As a business owner, you have less options because you have now 3 different vendors, you have 3 different invoices, and you get sort of a conflict of interest across that stack, right? And so, I'm kind of foreshadowing here, I guess, but like one way that we work with Range and one reason we came together early on is I'm a big believer in staying in my lane. Okay, so the problem in our industry was cannabis e-commerce menus. Okay, we solved that with our menu option, but we've decoupled it behind the scenes from the CMS. In other words, you can do in-house or work with an agency, and you have full control over your WordPress. Let's call it WordPress, could be other things, but let's call it a WordPress website. There was nothing wrong with WordPress for home pages and event pages and blogs. In fact, it's really good. And so what we've been able to do is sort of decouple that behind the scenes so that you are working on your content site in your lane, or using Range even better, and we're in our lane. But what we're serving up to Google is one site map and one cohesive user experience. And so you got what people were looking for. You get the SEO value and you get the branding. But again, now you have more control and much less cost and a better integration. So I think I probably skipped over to the next slide, but you can go ahead and do that. Sorry. So yeah, we'll cover this. I mean, I touched on most of this already, but just to kind of beat a dead horse here, our native menu, just looking at the menu part, some things that we do that help you boost SEO right out of the box, right? So one of my famous catchphrases is that, Blaze Ecom or Timber, it's not a silver bullet, right? But it is a loaded gun. Okay, so it works, but you can definitely put some gas on the fire, and that's what Range does a really good job with. So a couple things on this list here. We are auto-generating XML sitemaps for all of your menu pages, and it goes across your whole domain. So one sitemap for Google, one website for your customers from homepage to checkout. That's super important. We are every page in the ecom, so product, brand, categories, they all have dedicated structured URLs, which means you can link to them, which is something you can't do in some iframes even today. So you can link to different products from your email marketing or text marketing. Also, it's structured properly the way Google likes it. We're using page titles and meta descriptions, of course, for category, brands, and product pages. And again, the schema markup. So telling Google, hey, this is a brand, right? It's not just a word. This is the brand. This is the product name. It's in stock, all of these things. There's about 13 on a product page. Dedicated brand pages. I think this was a cool decision we made early on. So most e-commerce, even outside of our industry, they do brand pages with queries, right? So it's like in a filter, you select the brand, you get a question mark in the URL, and it's basically filtering the menu for that brand. That works great for a user experience, but Google's not going to index that content because it's dynamic. So what we have is in it, we also have the queries, so you can select multiple brands to filter through. But each brand has a dedicated brand page. You can add a logo, an extra description about that brand, and Google really likes that. So what else? Mobile first UI and site performance. Pretty obvious, like that's also a big part of the algorithm is how user-friendly your site is and how fast it is, right? And so we do a pretty good job with both of those. Again, I think the next slide is Nate's, right?
Yeah, let's pass it over to Nate.
Cool. So before we do that, I just wanted to queue up Nate. Like I said, this is the stuff we're doing on the e-com side. And the really cool part about it is how it's decoupled and allows us to work with someone like Range to actually create a really cohesive website. I got my Tropicanna shirt on here. One of the cool things about Range is actually, they play this down, I think, but the design and the development part of it. So, if you've ever been into Tropicanna, it's a vibe, man. It's really cool.
Absolutely.
And it's really unique. And so one thing that's cool is that we've been able to take that and again, have a cohesive brand and user experience from homepage to checkout. So I'll kick it over to Nate.
Yeah, thanks, Scott. Great job. I think you did a really good job sort of identifying the areas where you guys, I think, are kind of continuing to move the industry forward. I can tell you from my position, our company integrating iframes for as long as we did. I do think it was the pressure of Timber and now Blaze's technology that really moved the industry into creating more custom native menus. So kudos to you guys for really, I think, pushing the industry where it needed to go before other people were moving. So that's really hats off to Timber and to Blaze for that. And a lot of what you said, I think, feeds right indirectly to what we're talking about with our SEO tools and our websites, right? And I think what gets lost is this idea of how SEO is coupled, and utilizing SEO tools for keyword search volume, right? That's what everyone's looking for. They want to rank for as many keywords as well as they can, right? The higher the keyword count, you might rank for 1,000 keywords, and out of that 1,000, if 90% of them can be on page 1 within the top 5, top 3, top 2, top 1, you're increasing your visibility. Therefore, you're increasing your opportunities to be found, be interacted with. So it's our job to create an environment and the website that is easy to use, fun to use. I think really represents the brands of the retailers spend so much time, energy, money developing these brand identities and these and they want it to be reflected properly on a digital platform. And you can go with Blaze and have this great indexable native menu, but the main piece to this is the content site, because it's going to feed into everything else. And as long as there is good optimized internal pages, home pages within the actual content website itself, you can build a better overall SEO strategy when your content site and menu are working together rather than apart. And I think the problem the industry currently exists, and you talked a lot about that, Scott, which is the rigidness of the current designs that exist. You are basically asked to choose between having an SEO, a really visible website, or a marketplace. And I know everyone wants a design that is capable of, embracing their brand while also creating a shop first experience. Those are things we can do in the custom web experience in WordPress, but we also don't have to sacrifice the local SEO part of this, because I think this is where Scott and I, when we first met, started singing the same harmony, because I think for me, the local aspect of this dispensary near me is still one of the largest turners of traffic in the industry, whether that's new markets, matured markets. It doesn't matter. The dispensary near me, or cannabis shop, weed shop, whatever the core keyword is there near me. And that is still the main driver. But what's becoming more evident to me, and I think the data spells this out, is these more mature markets, there are less and less people looking for the retailer that in a broad search, and more they're looking for that product, that brand, who sells it the cheapest, who offers the best variety of specific brands. And that's really where I think we've used this term a bunch, Scott, but closing the SEO loop, making sure that we're driving that local traffic for tourists and people that are looking for more broad-based searches, but now also integrating those people that are looking for specific brands, specific brand categories, specific products. So being able to do both and closing the loop creates a really, really thorough SEO strategy that can really, I think, ascend and help ascend your business into drawing more traffic, drawing more conversions, which is something we'll see in just 4 months we were able to really do with the new website design, which I think, listen, I agree with Scott. Sometimes we maybe don't acknowledge the web development side of some of the things that we're able to do. And those things feed directly into the success of our campaigns. Yes, SEO is super important. Yes, how we do it on an automated level is super important. But if the people that are getting to the website leave, it doesn't matter how many people I bring to it, that website has to convert. So I'm super excited to preview and show off Joanna and Tropicanna's website, because not only do I think it's aesthetically very pleasing, the UX UI experience is really through the roof, and we're really excited to have it out there in the marketplace, but also that's generating the traffic and conversions that we're seeing.
Awesome.
So yes, how content sites improve SEO and conversion. So what Scott has been talking about is, sort of decoupling these two things, but in Google's eyes, they are in fact one. The hyper local on-site content, that is really where I think we have seen the most intrigue in how to move campaigns forward, market-based content strategies and backlinking strategies. And backlinking can be a confusing word because a lot of people hear about it, but they don't exactly know how to implement it. What we're able to do is both from on-site and off-site content, is create hyper local content. So if you're a Las Vegas based dispensary, you might have 35 landmarks, large hotels, things that Google Maps recognizes as a landmark, museums, casinos, hotels, entertainment centers, things like that. When you are building content on your site and bringing it back to your specific domain or your specific brand, what Google's going to start to do when it indexes your site is recognize you in those near me searches. So you're a tourist standing outside of Caesar's Palace and you Google search dispensary near me and your content site has specific content talking about your brand with Caesar's Palace. Well, Google's going to start indexing your site higher and higher and higher for those near me searches. And that is sort of on a basic level how we're leveraging the content strategy to create and generate more keyword strategies. And I think a lot of people just say, well, I want to rank for this keyword. I don't really care about the other stuff. And the near me searches and where Google has evolved, you got to tell it more than I want to rank for this keyword. It's thoughtful content. It's not just, 180 characters on a back page that no one's going to actually see. These are pages that need to be ranked. So for us, it's building the content, making sure that to some of the, terms that Scott used, the schema markup, the heading tags, the title tags, are all driving value. And whether it's 10 users or 10,000 users, each opportunity to close and to convert matters to us. That's why building these content strategies around hyper local targets has been super successful for us over the last 12 to 24 months. Page and load speed, when we're able to create our WordPress themes and combine it with Scott's team and Blaze's e-commerce, we're able to control the actual WordPress platform to make sure that it's performing at a good, so, Google uses page insights. Those are things our team are constantly auditing to make sure that you're within range, but B, listen, a lot of companies use a lot of third-party plugins, email, text messaging, calendars, and all of these third-party plugins that can bog down or slow down a theme. And for us, being in the industry as long as we have, we built a lot of these in-house. If you're a company, a retailer that wants to add delivery, you don't want to necessarily use a third-party plugin. You want to use specific, zip code finders or something. We've built out specific features so that we are not bogging down the load speed with, bloated third-party plugins or uncompressed images. Those are all things that we're really taking into account because load speed is absolutely a ranking factor for your website. So keep that in mind when you're, thinking about adding new plugins or thinking about adding new features, because those are things that absolutely can slow down your website and have a negative effect. But I think most importantly is that defined client journey. You're going to see how you would have no idea on Tropicanna's site that Timber and Blaze are two separate, or I'm sorry, that Range and Blaze are two separate platforms. They integrate so seamlessly. The UX experience doesn't move you to a third-party platform or a marketplace. You are on your website. The branding is consistent. What Scott and his team have been able to do to mimic the branding to make it look and feel like it's yours, I think is one of the main reasons we're seeing increased UX UI and increased conversion rate across our mutual clients. And I'm excited to kind of show that off as well. And we'll really kind of dive into these numbers through our live demo we do of the site, but just hit ahead on a couple of things. We've been together for 4 months, Joanna and I, and I'm really excited about just the e-commerce reporting that we've been able to put together. This also doesn't count a lot of the new organic traffic data, a lot of the ranking keyword data, but to see increases in conversion rate from just over 5.5% up to close to 9% in 4 months, to me speaks a lot to the way that the website has been set up, the user experience we're creating. It's efficient, it's conversion minded, and seeing a 28% increase in online transactions also really huge for us, because I think when you look at the California market at large, there are very few dispensaries, retailers, delivery companies that are seeing increases. If they are, they're very nominal. And right now what the industry is experiencing are sharp decreases, and not just numbers and revenue, but cart size and everything else. So to see their average order value up 5% and to see the increase in conversion rate almost double, up 57%. Those are things that have a tangible, sort of change, and it can be felt at the store level and the e-commerce level as well.
All right, Nate, you want to take over the share here and
Absolutely.
to the website?
Excited to do it. And I'm excited to bring Joanna in here too, because I think the most important part of the relationship that Joanna and her team and I have built is a collaborative effort. And I would like to take credit and have my team take credit for the beautiful design of this. But Joanna and her team really had an important role in making the website that they wanted come to life. Yes, our developers do a great job of sort of taking into account the things that they're looking for on a given website, but the communication, the feedback back and forth, I think really allowed us to build a shop-centric, conversion-minded website while not sacrificing the unbelievably creative brand that Joanna and the team have put together at Tropicanna. And one thing that I wanted to quickly show, so looking at some of the shop-centric areas, right? Being able to have users get to your website and shop by category has become increasingly more important. And you click on the edibles page and you're brought right to the timber page, which exactly was basically going to sort this all by edibles. So as you can see, when you moved right from the website back to the Blaze e-commerce menu here, it was a seamless transition. You got exactly to the category that you want. You're getting specific ads up top being served to you. And when you click up here at the top, it brings you right back to the content site. There is no lag. There's no, sort of glitch between each of these things. They feel like they are one website, and you really get that in the user experience, which I'm really excited about. So that's that seamless transition that you're talking about. But Joanna, I wanted you to kind of discuss your experience essentially being the co-developer of this website. You had a lot of feedback for us. You had a lot of design requirements that you wanted. But I'd like to hear your feedback about the development, the process that you went through, and maybe some of the things you guys are experiencing on maybe the back end now that the website is kind of what you guys have always wanted it to be.
Yeah, thanks, Nate. Yeah, you hit the nail right on the head. We definitely wanted a website that was the transition was seamless, right? What we had previously is like you knew that you were on two different sites, and that was affecting our conversion rates to actually people going on our actual e-commerce site and processing a transaction. So in working with the range design team, it was a positive experience overall. I was really impressed by the level of communication and the level of organization, the attention to detail, not only for the launch of our new content website, but also for our e-commerce site. At first, I was a little apprehensive when I realized that I would be working with two separate teams, Range, Timber, Blaze. But ultimately, it felt like I was working with one team throughout the entire experience or the design of the website, right? And so the Range design team was very strategic about like, what are you guys looking for? Like, what type of lettering, colors, like, what do you want that experience to be for your consumers? And they listened to us. They put a timeline together. They said, these are the benchmarks that we're going to get hit every single month. And eventually, once we're done with this portion, we'll go ahead and send it over to the e-commerce or the Blaze e-com team so that they can go ahead and finish the development of your e-commerce site. At first, I was like, that's not going to work. Like, you're having, again, two separate teams do two different things. And truthfully, funny to say, we were the ones who delayed the process because we weren't getting, we weren't giving feedback fast enough. You guys were ready to go the entire time. So that really impressed us. And just the final product of it, we're really impressed. And even our own internal team was like, going from that previous one to this one, the speed, how easy it is to just flow through the entire site, how easy it is to shop, like that was key for us. We wanted to focus on other areas, but we knew, people spend so much time on the internet, and if our site allows them to stay a little bit longer and convert to an actual transaction, that was the goal. And thanks to you and to the Blaze e-com team, we were able to accomplish that. So overall, the experience again was positive. I would like to do, I would do it again. I hope we don't have to do it again, but I would definitely do it again.
And I wanted to pass this one over to Scott too, because, I think this was in collaboration with Tropicanna, when Scott introduced me to Ruse and Joanna, I think the main thing that your team, Joanna, was most concerned with, again, was the communication of bringing in two separate organizations. And, I think for us, we've developed this relationship over time. This isn't something that, our team, our management team, our executive teams, we've talked about creating efficiencies. We've got our own Slack channels. If there's a customer service issue, we have direct lines of communication with each other to handle those issues and understand whose responsibility might be a problem and whose might not be, and then communicating with each other on how to get those issues solved. I think that's been the best thing for me, Scott, over the last couple of months, is building this line of communications, these SOPs that we're doing together, because it is as though we are one unit working separately in what I think I loved what you said, which is just staying in our lanes, doing what we do really well, but offering a cohesive product together.
Yeah, 100% agree. I mean, the cool thing is the better work you do and the better work, that we do, it's symbiotic, right? So like the better the e-commerce is, the better your work is going to stand out, the better results you're going to get for our mutual customers, and vice versa, right? Like we don't, we're not an agency, right? We're building e-commerce software. So I can build stuff into the software to help with SEO, but, it definitely helps to have an SEO agency work on the site, helps to have a design, minded agency to build out and express your brand. So, I want my e-commerce menu to have more traffic to it. I want people to have a cohesive experience. And so, we really kind of need each other in that way. And then it drives us, it aligns us basically to, work together, because it's in our best interest. And ultimately it's in our mutual customers' best interest, which is what really matters.
Absolutely. And I think the other cool part about where we've sort of gotten Joanna is it's not just a website that you guys are proud of in terms of design features and what it looks like and how it interacts, but I think it's having a positive effect with your client base as well, right?
Absolutely. I mean, since launching our new content and e-commerce sites, we've received nothing but positive feedback from our customers, not only in person, but also on online reviews. Like if you go check out our Google reviews, you'll see like that user experience just increased overall. With so much information being fed to everyone every single day, we knew that we had to create an online experience that they wanted to be a part of, like I mentioned previously. And what I mean by that is you typically have minutes or even seconds to engage an online customer. And if your site isn't designed well and it just looks generic like every other template that they've seen, they're not going to stay on your site. And they're not going to convert to an actual transaction. So since launching with Range and Blaze Ecom, we have seen the growth in overall customer spend, the overall time that a customer spends on our website, and actual conversions to online sales, and an increase in average ticket. Like, what more do we want with that,
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that kind of perfectly leads me into some of the highlights. And I know I covered some of them. And I think that the cool part about looking at what this campaign has accomplished in such a short period of time. I mean, this is 4 months into an SEO campaign. And listen, I've done this for long enough to understand that not every client is built the same. Not every domain that we take over has the initial starting point than another, right? Somebody might just be starting and opening their dispensary for the very first time and have a brand new domain, and the work necessary to get them up to speed and get them competitive is much different than someone like Tropicanna, who already had such a great established domain authority and was an established brand. They just needed the right direction. So there are different results and different times to those results based on sort of where you are when you're starting the race, which I think is really the best way to look at SEO. Is it is a race to the top. And, not every pace car in that race starts in the same position. And it doesn't mean that because you're in last place, you can't get to first. It just takes you longer to get to first than the guy that's in the middle of the pack. And I think those are just important aspects to understand. And this was a brand that I think was more closer to the middle or top of the pack than they were in the back of the pack. They just needed some strategy. They needed some direction. And in a short 4 months, we've seen, seeing a 57% increase in conversion rate across the board is fantastic. That means even if we didn't generate any more traffic than they were already getting, they're getting and seeing more sales based on a more efficient process of those same visitors coming to the website. But they are seeing a higher conversion rate. They are seeing more revenue at the e-commerce level. But I think the thing that I'm most excited about is seeing some of these individual product revenue increases, because these are products that we know they've sold for a long time or have at least have had in store. And now we're seeing these specific products get more traction, get more visibility, because the content site is generating better organic traffic. We're seeing a sort of a trickle down effect. And I think this is maybe the thing that is most untalked about, Scott, is when you have the rest of the site working and optimized properly, that means other pages, whether it's product pages, whether it's internal pages, whether it's your home page, all of those things have it. When SEO is working properly, there's a trickle down effect to everything else. So it's not surprising to me to see specific product pages see these increases in revenue when most dispensaries across the country now are seeing decreases. So that was just one point I wanted to make and really maybe hammer home on. Go ahead, Joe.
Sorry, Nate, I wanted to add something.
No.
And I just want to mention, touching on, marketing source is huge for us, right? And seeing our marketing source in the last 6 months to a year change from the number one being Weed Maps to now number one being Google, I think that's, proof in the pudding of letting us know that our SEO approach, not only with your, feedback and the content side and all that stuff, it's working. We don't have to give all of our money over to Weed Maps, which is not a bad thing. You still need to have that online presence there. But definitely making people go on our website through Google has been a positive effect for us, has had a positive effect for us.
Yeah. And I know a lot of the numbers that we were able to see with the insights is looking at across the market in just California. And if you're a California operator, this is not news to you, but there have been pretty constant declines in week over week sales as low as 15% at times. So seeing that your store is not a part of the group that is struggling is always a good thing. And I think when you marry two companies like Blaze and Range together, you're leveraging the power of a closed loop SEO strategy. And I think in 4 short months, seeing the kind of results we've seen from Tropicanna really speaks to what this relationship can do for your retail dispensary and hopefully much more.
Awesome. Well, let's kick it back over to our presentation here. We'll answer some questions for our Q&A. Let's get back to, here we go. Covered our live demo. So we already have a few questions coming in. We have one from Jesse. Is this feature already available with Blaze Ecom SEO consulting and website building? Scott, that might be a good one for you.
Yeah. I think the best way to answer that is yes, it is available. Range Marketing is doing, just to be clear, Range Marketing is a preferred partner that does the SEO consulting and content site building. So that might be another buzzword we could have defined. We tend to say content site, and that's basically the portions of your website that are not e-commerce, right? That's everything else that Nate was showing you. That's, in other words, not products, brands, check out, create an account. That's the e-com side. So what Range Marketing and Nate and his team do is really create that SEO strategy. They create the awesome websites, they manage them. It's pretty all inclusive on that side of the house. And then Blaze Ecom basically supports that, with our relationship and integration with Range.
But what is exciting, Scott, is to answer Jess's question, we do offer preferred Blaze pricing. So if you're a Blaze client, you are going to get special pricing from Range when we work together. So I think that's a really important aspect of developing a relationship further, is making sure that Blaze clients are getting the best in-class services and are being rewarded for that.
Yeah, I don't know if you want to foreshadow a bit there, Nate, but we do have some kind of a next level to this relationship.
Ooh, yes.
That's forthcoming here. I didn't want to get too far into it in this webinar. That wasn't the topic, but while we're here, I don't know if you want to speak to that quickly.
Yeah, and I'll be excited to hear Joanna's feedback in the next couple of weeks, because Tropicanna is our official I guess we'll call it test dummy on this co-branded, co-adopted product that we're kind of dubbing as product optimization. And for those that don't know what I'm talking about, Google and I want to be careful using the term penalizes. In this sense, Google ignores a lot of content when it's found, when that same content is considered duplicate and found on multiple other websites. And this is not just a cannabis e-commerce issue. This is a e-commerce wide issue. When you are serving a product or when you're selling a product that is sold on hundreds of other e-commerce shops across the country, like cannabis products are, what tends to happen is these companies, the POS companies and the manufacturers of these products, you're using in a lot of times the same exact descriptions and the same exact content to try to get your product ranking. So if imagine your Google and your computer and your bot for a second, and you've got 15 shops in Santa Ana who all have the same 3 variations of Stizzy pre-rolls, all of which have the same exact description. So if the 3-pack, the 6-pack, and the 12-pack all have the same content description, how can Google prioritize any of them, considering that the 3 and 12-pack that is sold at the retailer down the road has the same exact description? How is Google trying to prioritize, and how can they do it well? So our goal right now, in part with Blaze, is to build an add-on product to their shops that allow us to re-optimize, rewrite, and really scale the ability of Google to crawl your website, get a unique product description. And now the hope is for Joanna and Tropicanna that these products that have been optimized in our shop now start to get recognized as individual products, even if they're the same product with a different quantity. So we're really excited. It's still in the beta test stage, and we're rolling it out with Tropicanna. We're really excited to see what that looks like. But we're really excited at what this could potentially mean for our partnership, but for retailers who are trying to do little things to, separate from the competitors in the market.
Awesome. I got another one here from Sandra. She says, what if I already spent so much money on designing my website? Would the e-commerce monthly cost be more affordable? Does that make it worth their while?
It's a great question.
Yeah, go ahead.
It's a great question. And one that I am not unused to diffusing. This is arguably the most common question that I get. Listen, we have a lot of options for you. One of which is doing something that we call platform optimization. We can take your current website, convert it into our WordPress platform, and essentially optimize the design you currently have and not charge you an upfront fee with that. We can also build you a new website and include it within your SEO bundle. So I understand that this is a pain point the industry sees a lot. I just built a website, Nate, but I really want to use your SEO. How can we make this work? We can make it work. And I'm not going to ask you to reinvest or add more money on top of the designs you've already built. So Sandra, there are a lot of options for you. Ones that Scott and I have already thought of. So we'll make sure you're taken care of so that you get the SEO and the optimization you want without having to reinvest in the platform you've already built.
Awesome.
Yeah, and just to piggyback on that, that's all very true. I also want to be clear that the pricing is separate between, we are getting sort of a discounted rate with Range to tack this service onto the e-commerce. The e-commerce is like, we do stay in our lane. It is still decoupled. The billing is separate, all of that stuff. And so, there's nothing to stop you from using the e-commerce. And we have several different plans that become very affordable on its own, no matter which direction you go. So just to be clear on that.
And with the hopes of becoming better partners, we've aligned our pricing to match kind of how we would price specific types of vendors. And a lot of that's based on your market size. But like in this developing relationship, we wanted to make sure that in lockstep, when clients are choosing our products, they choose them based on the same requirements. So we've made it one cohesive strategy, but they are priced separately, but it's all very transparent and you know exactly why you're spending what you're spending.
Yeah.
Great. I got another one here from Jesse. What does a small business stand to gain from Range Marketing Service? I don't carry as many brands as the larger stores and rely on Leafly heavily with relatively good success.
It's a great question. Visibility. You want people to visit a platform that is uniquely yours. Scott talked a lot about, listen, Leafly is a great platform. The weed maps are platforms that I would never tell somebody to fully divest from. I think the unique thing is, though, when you're sending someone to Leafly, sending someone to weed maps, you're inviting that person to price shop you against your direct competitors right there on that marketplace. When we can isolate that traffic and we can generate traffic directly to you, that is data, that is traffic that is valuable to you, in that you are isolating them in your platform and not allowing them to leave or easily navigate between you and the competitor that might be a mile, a quarter mile next door. So this gives you an opportunity to house your platform under a roof that is yours. Think of it as your digital storefront, whereas these marketplaces, they offer all of your competitors the same opportunity to shop for features, shop for products, or whatever they might be looking for in one marketplace. This is something you own, the data you own. And you can also opens up advertising opportunities for brands that want to advertise on your website because of the traffic that you're generating. So I would tell you the main benefit is have something that's uniquely yours, because the value of those consumers, the value of that traffic is even maybe more than you think from a sort of straightforward perspective.
Nice. I got another one here. Can we utilize your services in Canada? Got a few people joining us north of the border.
That's true. Welcome our friends in Canada. I know there's a lot of folks.
I can look out the window and see you guys
platform
actually.
Here.
I can see you guys right from here. We're in Buffalo, New York. I look out the window and I can see the Peace Bridge right here.
Yeah, I mean, the short answer is yes, absolutely, right? The Google works the same in Canada. Consumer behavior is the same in Canada, right? People go online and they look for stuff, and like Nate said, you can really see it in our industry. I think it's actually really interesting because we're probably the only industry to ever come of age in this era where there was already a demand, but there was no legal industry, right? And so it's real hockey stick growth. Of course, Dispensary near me was the first, can I buy weed online? Dispensary near me, San Francisco Dispensary. These are obvious and they're still around. They're still very relevant, as you said, but what's really hockey sticking is the, brand and product preferences, right? It's not rocket science. People already smoked weed. Now they have brand and product preferences because those brands and products didn't exist 5 years ago. And so just like any other thing, when you have a preference, you look for it and you do it on Google, and that's how we're being found. So that concept holds true on both sides of the border. Also, I would say, look, this isn't rocket science, guys. The bar is very low. So like that the problem with e-commerce content being held hostage in iframes and marketplaces that also exists on both sides of the border. That means the time is now because the bar is low. And when it's not low, it will be harder and more expensive, right? And so we have a really great opportunity right now to get out in front of this curve because, it's just like regular real estate. It's supply and demand, really. And so the demand is there. The supply of that content is low. So tenure matters, get out in front. And that holds true on both sides of the border for sure.
Yep. We, as I mentioned, Range Marketing is based in Buffalo, New York, which is always kind of a funny thing that we kind of really started our business in California, which is literally maybe some of the furthest points of the country from each other. But it is the internet. It's the beauty of the internet. We service Canadian retailers, and I think what makes us unique and it makes this relationship unique is that we do span the United States. And when there are events here on the East Coast, I'm able to continue to push this partnership on the East Coast and vice versa for events that happen on the West Coast with Blaze. So that's what makes this relationship unique is we're sort of spanning the entire country. But that also makes us unique to our Canadian friends as well, who are able to serve us. Absolutely.
Awesome. I got one here from Kevin. What are some of the biggest pain points we would have as a business transitioning into a service like this from something previously?
It's a good question. Scott, you want to tackle that?
Yeah, I can tackle it from the e-com side for sure. I think changing any service is not, I'd be lying to you if I said that it's super fast, easy. You don't have to lift a finger and there'll be no issues, right? So whether you're changing from Shopify to WordPress or from, anything to anything, right? Your customers are going to have, a different experience one day when they come to your website, right? That's the elephant in the room. So we put a lot of work into the way that we sync into the point of sale system to make sure that they can reset their password and they have their existing account, or, we help with the communication. So like telling customers what to expect and when to expect it is crucial. So there's some basic things that we can do to kind of lessen that jarring experience, make it smoother. But overall, it's I wouldn't call them pain points. I just call them things to look out for and best practices to mitigate this. But for the most part, it's just about setting up your training and going through the onboarding process, which is relatively quick. If you want to design help us design a premium theme and work with Range, obviously there's some work there. Joe talked to that. So I wouldn't call them pain points, but just things to watch out for as you're going to have a little extra work and getting things going through the onboarding process, and also just making sure that you're communicating to your customers is key.
And I would also say, from our perspective, this is one of the advantages of the relationship that we've sort of built upon is we have designated launch schedules. Our internal members from Blaze team and from Range team are constantly communicating and working together to make sure that the launch of each platform is done in sync and in lockstep. So there is no real disruption digitally. We like to do it before or after business hours. So this is not going to happen in the middle of your busiest day, in the busiest hour. We do not want a digital interruption. We want it at business as usual. Our websites can be developed and launched anywhere between 5 and 6 weeks, as long as the feedback is given on time and we're able to we're able to get all the revisions that are necessary in so that the final product is exactly what the client wants. Sometimes that extends those timelines, but if someone's looking for a sort of a more simple platform to be launched and developed, I've done launches in 4.5, 5 weeks before, which matches up really well to onboarding with Blaze as well. So I think the onboarding is always difficult when you're switching tech stacks. But I always tell people, the fruit of that labor, the fruit of that pain, you see on the other end when your website becomes more visible, when your products start ranking, and you're starting to generate more revenue. That couple week period, that month and a half period where there's obvious transition, you will see the fruits of that transition. There's no doubt in my mind.
Worth it.
Yeah, I would just add to that also that, like, if you're a current customer of a point of sale system that Timber or Blaze Ecom integrates with, I mean, we can actually deploy this in a week, maybe 2 weeks. So we work really closely with Range on that timing. So we can always go live with, let's say, for example, we could go live with our base level theme, and we can do that really fast, again, within a week sometimes. We can then circle back and in tandem be working with Range on with their website and informing our premium theme, and then we can redeploy together as soon as that's ready. So we really work in lockstep, and we do the heavy lifting on that. So you're not fiddling around with your DNS at 4 a.m. We'll really work in lockstep to make sure this is deployed, and that's important. Like Nate said, after hours or before you open on a Monday through Wednesday. We have some strict protocols in place. I think together we've done this hundreds of times. So definitely cognizant of not just flipping the switch on a Friday afternoon, and that's pretty important.
Awesome. Got one here from Albert. When it comes to looking at the analytics of an online menu, will Blaze Insights include data from Blaze Ecom, or will clients have to be skilled with Google Analytics?
That's a great question.
Yes,
I'll take that one. So yes, near to midterm roadmap, definitely Insights will ingest the data from Ecom and from Blaze Ecom and this site level information. Today, we have actually 2 other options, which is we have our dashboard in the Ecom admin, which is actually Google Looker, or used to be Data Studio. That is integrated and pulls in Google data. So that pulls in your Google Analytics and your Google Search Console. So to answer your the meat of your question there, do you have to be skilled in Google Analytics? The short answer is you do not. We just have to, we have like a template that shows you the data in a structured way. We just have to connect your Google Analytics and your Search Console. Important, you own those. It's not our accounts, it's your accounts, as is the Google Looker dashboard itself. So you own those accounts. We help you set them up. After that, you can see the information right there. Range also has additional analytics, which a lot of it was shown today. Nate, I don't know if you could speak to that as well.
Yeah, I would expect no one to be experts on Google Analytics, especially after the GA4 rollout, which has become increasingly difficult to understand. You'll leave it to the largest digital company in the world to come out with a analytics dashboard that nobody really understands and what has changed about it. So no, I would never expect one of our clients, whether mutual or solo, to have to decipher the intricacies of Google Analytics and Google Analytics 4. We We do have our own, platform that we've built, our analytics platform that plugs directly into GA4 to make it more visually appealing. However, if there are specific questions within GA4, you can always ask me or Scott. Our teams build and really kind of, I would say, work off of our mutual analytics. His revenue analytics are very prevalent to us. We want to make sure that we're driving increased revenue. We're able to, sort of use their API within their menu so that we are able to capture that traffic. But we love cross-referencing with what Blaze and their team have been able to do from an insights perspective. So yeah, though, analytics, if you're not up to date, or if you don't fully understand how to best utilize GA4, you're not alone. It's an industry, it's a countrywide issue ever since July 1st rollout of GA4. And that's why you want an expert company like Blaze and Range who can decipher that information and present it to you in a much more consumable way.
Awesome. We got time for one more here. How is the integration with WooCommerce? Pain points?
I can speak to that quickly. So story time, I guess, here real quick. Timber actually started as an agency. We were building custom WooCommerce websites, actually integrated with Blaze as early as, I think, 2018. It took almost 2 years for us to have, I think I personally, with one developer, hi Sid, if you're out there, built probably 50 different WooCommerce websites in the first year and a half. All dispensaries and delivery services, again, all integrated to Blaze. It's not the right tool for the job, especially at scale. Again, you're lumping different ideas together, and you're using WooCommerce, which has its own backend and database, right? It's a full functioning, full stack e-commerce platform. So if you're taking that fundamentally, if you're taking that and you're integrating it to a point of sale system, you're not using it in the way it was intended to be used. And it becomes very bloated, very slow, very resource intensive, very maintenance heavy. All of these things, right? And so if you are a dispensary trying to build a WooCommerce website, I will not say it's impossible, but it's definitely uphill both ways, because you need to effectively have on your team or hire an agency to build mostly a custom website. And the other thing is that WooCommerce isn't really set up for pickups and delivery or cannabis, right? So you're really, having to do a lot of customization to make WooCommerce work for that use case in general. And then even if you're successful with that, which I've seen a lot of people, have a pretty site that looks like it was for cannabis, you succeeded in that, but under the surface, you're like a duck, your feet are moving real fast under the water, because it's a lot of work to maintain that thing, keep it running smoothly, and keep it fast. So that's kind of the pain points with WooCommerce that I've seen personally. Again, 50 sites before we built software to solve that.
Well said. Square peg, round hole.
Yeah, I could have said that faster.
Awesome. Well, just want to thank everybody for your questions. We're going to move on. If there are additional questions, we can reach out after the webinar to address those. We really appreciate everybody joining us today. Scott, Nate, Joanna, thank you guys so much.
Yeah, thank you, Joanna.
Providing your insights and all your testimonial. We will be following up this webinar with an email that includes a recording of the webinar, so you can watch that at your convenience. We'll have some additional resources in terms of the case study with Tropicanna, and sort of how you can set up a consultation regarding your dispensary website. This URL down here, blaze.me/partner/range marketing. There's a form there. You can go and fill that out. We'll schedule a personalized walkthrough to take a sort of a consultation of your website. But if you're not already on Blaze, go ahead and reach out to us today. We do have a summer to switch sale that I believe ends today, so timing is ripe. But we do appreciate everybody for tuning in. Stay safe, and we will see you on the next one. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, John.